Winfell guest article by Berk Gümüs.
Evidence that electromagnetic weapons are being continuously directed at large segments of the unsuspecting civilian population includes strange sounds described around the world as the hum, the noise, or simply as a low, buzzing sound right at the edge of audibility. The sound is described as piercing and unnerving, as unpleasant as the scratching of fingernails on a slate. James Kelly, former research director at the University of New Mexico/United States of America, said in the 1990s, "We now have two major populations hearing this buzzing, here and in England. People in Taos are very disturbed by it. It's not a small thing." An acoustical engineer in Colorado believes he has measured the hum and come up with 17 to 70 vibrations per second. Results in the rank it between 33 and 80 vibrations per second. Residents of the United States state of Alabama suffer from it, sometimes noticing a humming fluorescent light that seems to emanate from the ground and occasionally comes from the air. In New Zealand, people call it the noise, and they too suffer from it. Struggling with analysis, former United States Rep. Bill Richardson of the House Intelligence Committee knew the hum was not a hoax. He said at a meeting in Taos that the noise was defense-related and demanded that the Pentagon stop it. This does not appear to have come out of thin air. According to Bob Saltzman, another researcher, a scientist from the Committee on Science, Space and Technology, lost his job for claiming that the Defense Department was responsible for the hum. Incidentally, since then, the Congressman Richardson has also distanced himself from his statements and no longer answers his phone calls. This hum or noise mentioned in the above text has nothing to do with the sound mentioned in Contact Report 780 as follows.
780th Contact Saturday, 9th October 2021, 9:59 p.m.
Even the fact that the Earth is alive and sends out its pulse beat, which sounds like a pulsating hum, as I recently described to someone from the Cora group, but who cannot perceive any of it, which is apparently only perceived by a few Earthlings, has changed agonizingly, and points out how the planet is suffering due to the overexploitation of its resources. Since my earliest youth I have heard this sound, which sounds increasingly agonizing. Svarhoff explained to me that I hear the groaning of the earth, which comes from the overexploitation of the ores, the earth's petroleum, and the escaping earth gases, as well as the earth's resources of all kinds. But the Earthlings would only notice the whole thing when it was too late, when overpopulation had already robbed and destroyed the planet of its resources to such an extent that it could no longer be changed. But when it is recognized one day, the whole of the Earth's groaning will not be recognized as such, but will be attributed to industrial technology, and thus trivialized and not recognized as the planet's cry for help. As a result, the destruction of the Earth through the machinations of overpopulation will continue, which will make the companies, corporations, and private individuals rich because they fulfill the needs, desires, and luxuries of humanity, and thereby destroy the planet down to its foundations. And that this is happening is something I have been hearing since my earliest youth, and it is sounding worse and louder. Unfortunately, it is only individual human beings who care, who take it all in and try to do something better. However, this does nothing for the mass of humanity, certainly nothing for the huge overpopulation, because of which, or as a result of whose machinations, which are fulfilled by money-greedy companies, corporations, and private individuals, as I have said before, and of which I am reminded again and again by hearing the groans, the Earth is being completely destroyed and tormented to such an extent that it is groaning, and its climate is changing, whereby warming will also increase not only by 1 or 1.5 degrees in the foreseeable future, as is erroneously assumed, but towards 3 degrees. Also, the hundreds of unusual fireballs, mostly green or oranged, and other strange aerial phenomena are sky signs that secret advanced electromagnetic weapons are being tested all over the world. For example, on May 28, 1993, a huge oranged fireball with a bluish tail flew from south to north between Leonora and Leverton, Australia, almost at the speed of a jet. Its flight was observed over an area of 250 kilometers. The fireball made a pulsating, roaring sound similar to a very loud train. Immediately after the fireball passed, an earthquake measuring 3.9 on the Richter scale shook the area, followed by an enormously prolonged explosion. Since seismographic monitoring of this area of Australia began, there had never been an earthquake, and that was since 1900. At the presumed impact site of the fireball, no crater of an impact was ever found. A huge deep red hemisphere of light encircled by a silver ring of light rose into the air and was seen by observers up to 50 kilometers away. About an hour after the fireball hit, another small blue-green-white fireball rose from the ground and flew over the area. Another smaller explosion and a slight earthquake were recorded at this time. But that was not enough. In October 1994, in the Australian mining town of Tamprais in Western Australia, a huge pulsating red-orange fireball without a tail was observed slowly passing over the town at a low altitude. Nearly 2,000 people watched its flight, and some witnesses described the red flames swirling in a spiral pattern that disappeared into a central black hole in the burning mass. One witness called it an implosion ball of flames. After 5 to 7 minutes, it lit up in bright blue-white light, illuminating the surrounding area, and shot off at breakneck speed, disappearing to the east. Exactly the same phenomenon was subsequently repeated with 2 more fireballs. On May 1, 1995, at 2:00, a similar fireball was sighted over the Australian city of Perth. It too sounded like a roaring freight train and flew at about the speed of a fast jet. Suddenly it stopped and changed direction. Finally it exploded and lit up the city.
Researcher and mining geologist Harry Mason likened the detonation to a nuclear explosion. A loud, vibrating, massive blast and seismic wave reverberated around Perth, shaking buildings and causing books and things to fall off shelves in the city. About half the population was awakened by the blast. Some observers reported that 4 white lights shot out from the center of the fireball, forming a rectangular white cross in the sky. Although the event was estimated to be an explosion with the force of several megatons of dynamite, it was not reported in the world press. Since then, there have been more than 1,000 reports of fireballs and strange light phenomena in Australia, as well as large numbers of similar events around the world. Many of the fireballs are said to have caused this freight train noise in the process. The media do not deal with all these incidents, which is not surprising, since they do not serve the information of the citizens, but their purposeful pseudo-information. They are filled with unimportant things like celebrity weddings, divorces and deaths, sporting events and official press releases, and in the feeling of being calmly informed, in a kind of trance state of laziness of thought from which there could soon be a rude awakening.